A warm welcome to this distinguished roundtable on circular economy. My name is Freek van Eijk, Director of Holland Circular Hotspot, and I'm honored to be your moderator today. Holland Circular Hotspot wants to make circular economy happen at the international level and stimulate circular collaboration. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. The aim of this roundtable is to engage leaders in the Netherlands and Japan to bring circular economy further and to explore opportunities. We have business leaders, we have governmental leaders, and we have professors from universities. We have all it takes. We will discuss how stakeholders can bring the transition further. We have an amazing lineup and a fantastic program, but for a formal introduction, I gladly invite His Excellency, Mr. Peter van der Vliet, Ambassador of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Japan. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Freek, and good morning, participants in the Netherlands, and good afternoon to our guests here in Japan. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this roundtable on circular economy. And this program is part of the digital Team NL Tokyo Expo, which offers a variety of interesting topics in the period leading up to and during the Tokyo Olympics. If you want to know more, check out teamnltokyoexpo.com for more information. What does this roundtable on circular economy, what does that have to do with the Olympics, you might ask? Well, the answer is everything. The Tokyo 2020 organizers have pledged to make the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics the most sustainable games ever. And sustainability and circular economy are two sides of the same coin. This roundtable today follows two earlier webinars, one on plastics and one on manufacturing. We have some excellent speakers lined up for you today, as you said, Freek, including former Dutch Prime Minister Jan-Peter Balkenende, who has been a champion for sustainable growth for years, as well as current Dutch Minister for the Environment, Stientje van Veldhoven. And of course, we will hear about the Japanese perspective from our distinguished Japanese speakers and friends. Personally, I have noticed an increasing awareness and interest in circular economy here in Japan. But also, and perhaps more importantly, I see growing activism in this field. For instance, I know for a fact, and so does Minister van Veldhoven, that Japanese Minister for the Environment, Koizumi, is keenly interested in exchanging ideas and experiences on circular economy. The Japanese government has been proactive by setting a zero greenhouse gas emissions target for 2050 and a 46% CO2 reduction target for 2030. And the Japanese Diet or Parliament recently adopted a law on reducing plastic waste by cutting the use of plastics by retailers, restaurants and hotels, and by promoting plastic recycling. So exciting things are happening related to circular economy, and there is much we can learn from one another. This is the moment to scale up ambitions for enhanced Dutch-Japanese cooperation for a better world and a better future. My special thanks go to the organizer of this roundtable, Holland Circular Hotspot, and the supporters, Circular Economy Salon, PACE, the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, and the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management. I wish you all a fruitful roundtable. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We're always impressed and very grateful for the work your embassy is doing to bring Japanese-Dutch collaboration on circular economy further. And as you mentioned, our Minister for the Environment, Ms. Stientje van Veldhoven, is a true advocate for the circular economy. And she's a close friend to Japan. She can't be with us today in person in the studio, but she has left us a personal video statement. She brings over her commitment and she urges us to continue our collaboration in this field. Please start the video.
Dear Ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, how I would have loved to join you at this roundtable. But unfortunately, I had other commitments. These are extraordinary times. The world is in the midst of combating the COVID-19 pandemic. Fortunately, with the vaccination effort underway, the end of this dramatic pandemic is in sight. And in these very challenging times, Japan is hosting the Olympic Games in Tokyo this summer. In normal circumstances, organizing the most important sporting event in the world is an enormous and complex challenge. But organizing the Games during a pandemic is of a completely different order. Nevertheless, I'm convinced that Japan will make these Games a huge success. The Olympics are all about uniting the world. And global unity is also what we need to deal with the climate crisis. And I believe that the transition to a circular economy is a crucial instrument in achieving our climate neutrality and Paris Agreement targets. You could say that the circular economy is our secret weapon in combating climate change. And Japan and the Netherlands are pioneers and ambassadors in raising awareness of the importance of circularity. Our countries, they share a long history, and I'm confident that our cooperation on the circular economy is the beginning of a new era. Fortunately, more and more countries are learning that circularity is really key to achieving climate neutrality. As you know, the Netherlands hosted the World Circular Economy Forum Plus Climate event in April this year. And our aim was to make the world leaders aware that circular action can be a game changer in our efforts to achieve the Paris Agreement goals. However, awareness is not enough if you want to transform the world's linear economic system into a circular one. To make a real difference and achieve a circular economy, we have to find ways to collaborate on scaling up innovations in order to make impact. Circularity is a team sport. We have to take action all over the globe. No government can do it alone. We need each other, we need industry, we need science and society to work together to find and implement the most impactful solutions. At the same time, I hear from industry that they need leadership and support from government. And I must say, I had a great call with Minister Koizumi 2 months ago. We talked about our convictions, our ambitions and our actions, and we promised each other that we would work closely together in our home countries and internationally to show the world that change is possible. And I understand there are many examples of Japan's efforts in the transition to a circular economy. For instance, Minister Koizumi told me that the Japanese government introduced an ambitious circular economy law, incentivizing producers, retailers and consuming to move away from this throwaway culture and to reduce their impacts on pollution, biodiversity loss and climate change. He also mentioned the Shiseido Inland Sea region as a landmark project, showing the importance of the circular economy to the Japanese people. Together we can build on these efforts, harnessing opportunities to build back better after the COVID crisis in every sector and industry, from plastic and textiles to manufacturing and electronics. And let's not forget the automotive sector, the construction sector and chemical industries. The transition towards a circular and climate neutral economy is a positive and ambitious movement, and above all, it really is a team effort. So in closing, I wish you all a very productive meeting, and I hope that you will openly share not only your successes but also your dilemmas, the dilemmas that you face in transforming the market into a circular one, because we can learn from each other. Arigato gozaimasu.
Wonderful. It's so helpful to have this kind of support from governmental leaders. But now we have a new session, and this is about business. And business are the main actors in scaling up circular economy. They show guts, they invest. So we'll be looking at the business perspective in this next round table. What's needed to create an enabling environment? We have a wonderful panel again. Online, we have with us Ms. Noda, Chairman and Representative of Veolia Japan. We also have Ms. Yun Aoki, Chief Social Value Creation Officer of Shiseido. With us in the studio, we're honored to have with us Professor Dr. Jan-Peter Balkenende, former Prime Minister of the Netherlands and Chairman of the Dutch Sustainable Growth Coalition. Last but not least is Harald Tepper, Senior Director of Sustainable Development of Philips. Welcome, gentlemen. Of course, you want to know better who is whom and what's the link of the companies with circular economy. So to challenge our speakers, we'll give them each 2 minutes of time for an elevator pitch on their companies. Ms. Noda, can I give the floor to you and to introduce Veolia Japan?
Thank you very much, Freek. I'm Yumiko Noda. I am a chairman and representative director for Veolia Japan. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. I'm so excited to be here with, of course, Mrs. Aoki from Shiseido and Mr. Balkenende and Mr. Tepper, who kindly joined our circular economy salon the other day. Let me introduce what we do at Veolia Japan. As you know, Veolia globally has more than 165 years of history providing environmental solutions in the water, waste, and energy sectors. And we are based in France, operating globally in the 5 continents with 180 employees and 26 billion revenues. We are committed to circular economy, not just recycling of the waste, but we recover value out of the waste, generating energy and secondary resources out of the waste. In Japan, we started our operation in 2002. Currently, we have roughly 9,000 employees in Japan in water sector, waste sector, and energy sector. If you can show a slide. So we do have wastewater treatment plants. We operate drinking water treatment plants. We operate biomass plants, and also we have 3 plastic recycling plants in Japan, all over Japan, from Hokkaido to island of Okinawa. We have a very wide range of operations in Japan. As you can see from this map, we do have 3 plastic recycling plants in Japan, 1 in Saitama, 1 in Ibaraki, 1 in Shizuoka. And we are right now constructing a new plastic recycling compounding plant in Shizuoka, which can recycle the plastic waste to be used for the automobile parts or electronic or electric parts, which is starting next year. We are not just treating the waste or treating the water, but we provide a circular solution to the clients, including cities, municipal governments, and also industries. For the wastewater operation, we basically produce out of the waste, the sludge, sewage sludge, into energy, heat, and compost. So as I mentioned earlier, we do have 64 wastewater plants, but in some of those plants, we try to produce energy and heat and compost from out of the sludge, which is really the circular solution to the municipal governments. For the industry, we now trying to develop the closed loop with our partner companies. In Japan, we are currently working with Kao and also Unilever Japan, together with the city called Higashi Yamato City, which is located in Tokyo area. Basically, we try to create bottle-to-bottle closed loop for the consumer goods, like shampoo bottles or detergent bottles, basically collecting the waste bottles from the consumers living in the Higashi Yamato City, and we try to recycle those wasted plastics to make the pellets, so that we can bring back to the new products to be used by Kao and Unilever. So this is the type of things we are doing in Japan, developing new solutions, on the plastic for the Japanese companies. So that's it from me, the introduction. Thank you. Back to you.
I continue to Professor Balkenende here with us in the studio, and I ask him to elaborate on a highly regarded business coalition, the Dutch Sustainable Growth Coalition.
Yep. It's a coalition of Dutch 8 multinationals. We started in 2011. And the key question is, how can you integrate sustainability into your business models? What about your strategies, your KPIs and reporting activities? And that is a matter of asking yourself the right questions. How can we change our business model? What about implementation within your own organization? And asking yourself the question, how can we contribute to the sustainable development goals, to climate change, and to the circular economy? So for that reason, we have written a report in 2015 about the circular economy, and recently a report about the circular economy and plastics.
We'll soon get back to that one.
And it's really key that you are aware of the fact that we have to change things. When we have 10 billion people in 2050, the question is, can we continue with the current styles of production and consumption? The answer is, of course, no. It's about the interest of future generations. What about the scarcity of natural resources and materials?
Right.
So it's a matter of values. And when I was in Japan as Prime Minister in 2009, I attended a lot of companies. And in every company, I received information about the backgrounds of the company, which family started the company, and what were the values of the company. And I think when we talk about a circular economy, this is also about values, doing good for society, taking into account the interest of the future, and also make these things profitable. So it's a matter of sustainability and new business approaches.
Can you remind us quickly of the 8 companies which are behind the Dutch Sustainable?
These are the companies, chemical companies like DSM, Actionable, Philips company, Unilever, Shell is part of it, KLM is a part of it, Friesland Campina, and I think I lost one. But I think these are most of them.
Thank you, Professor Balkenende. A warm welcome also to Yun Aoki from Shiseido. Compliments, by the way, for the color of your tie. That is very much appreciated.
Yeah.
Can you please share with us the story of Shiseido?
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you guys. But just I heard many great names as our teachers. It's a really good starting point for us, for me to learn through Action Chase. Anyway, let me share a bit of a business perspective. Business in a good shape is all about virtuous cycle. We have reinforcing mechanism. For example, it is observed between satisfied customer and profitable business. And the business is all about continuation of this cycle. I've done HR job before. So between company growth and people growth, there should be also good virtuous cycle. And then, now we are talking about circular economy. So inputs from the nature, we borrow some resources from nature and utilize it for business. So output of the business, those two should really have a great. Probably this is not the right slide. Anyway, so the importance, this in the cycle. So circular economy is so essential for it is for survival of a company, but it's often too much for one company. Yeah, there are so many things to do. So. And there are so many benefits to challenge circular economy issues together across industries, sectors, and nations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Aoki. Last but not least is Mr. Harald Tepper from Philips. Philips is also seen as a circular flag bearer. Can you explain why that is like that?
Yeah, thank you very much, Freek, and indeed also part of the Dutch Sustainable Growth Coalition. Heineken, I think, was the 8th company that we missed. Is inspiring to be part of such a coalition of front runners. So Philips is a 130 years old company that went through a lot of changes, and over the last decade we have really focused to become a health technology leader. And we have started around 2011, I think, with thinking about circular economy and our global footprint on the material side. For 2 reasons. One is because we think this is the only way to do responsible business in the future. And the other also, we see this as a key innovation driver, and that has been true ever since. And we have 3 large targets on the circular economy. One is to reach 25% of 25% of our revenues attributed to circular products and services over the next 5 years. We are currently at 15%. We are able already to do a trade-in offer to all our customers to trade back our large-scale equipment at the end of use and treat it responsibly. We are extending that over the next 5 years to our full medical portfolio. And last but not least, we also want to be circular in our own operations. So last year we reached zero waste to landfill in our factories, which is an amazing accomplishment, but it's only the start, right? Diverting waste is really the lowest end of circular economy. So we're extending circular practices across our factories, warehouses, and offices.
Thank you so much. Now, it's no coincidence that these 4 companies are here together, because they gathered before here under the flag of the Circular Economy Salon. I would like to kindly ask Ms. Noda to explain this initiative of the Circular Salon, its objective and activities in, please, less than 2 minutes. Over to you, Ms. Noda. And
Thank you so much. So, can you show the slide? So basically, this is a C-suite network in the industry. We do have 13 business leaders and plus 2 professors for the academia. The basic 13 CEOs, executives, along all the value chain, from design, manufacturing, materials, consumer goods, cosmetics or retails, waste management, and recycler, being Veolia. We try to cover the entire life cycle, and we do have representative companies leaders from each part of the value chain. So we do have like wood company, chemical company, non-ferrous metal company like JX, Nippon Mining and Metals. We do have a consumer goods company, a cosmetic like Shiseido. Aoki-san is member of the salon. We do have CEO of Suntree as well. So we try to get together, and the objective of this salon is to really understand the trend of circular economy in the world, especially in Europe. What is the best practice for the CE? And in Japan, we try to shape and create the circular economy trend. And of course, in the management of the companies, we try to incorporate the CE trend into it, and so that we can transition from the linear economy-based business into a circular economy-based business. And lastly, the objective of CE Salon is to really foster the collaboration among the industries, so that we can work together, especially with the perspective of the recycler back into the manufacturing, process or design process. In the past, Japan, there's a lack of collaboration among the value chain, in my view. That's why we try to organize the companies in the entire value chain and put together the solutions as a whole to create the CE trend movement in Japan. That's the purpose of the CE Salon.
Thank you for the explanation, but above all, thank you for this initiative, Ms. Noda. As the other companies were present at the event and are also a member of the event, I want to ask them basically what's their relation with this event and why they applauded and why they joined it. And I would like to start with Ms. Tepper.
Yeah. No, thank you very much. A very good question. I think, in the basis, circular economy is a global transition, and it asks for a global transition. So it needs to land everywhere across the globe. And so I think that's why we applaud this initiative so much, because it's so important to also have a voice around circular economy in Japan and in the larger Asian region. I think it has to land globally, but it has to be translated to local context. And that's why you need the local hubs. We are working very closely together with PACE, the global platform for accelerating the circular economy, which is trying to bring together these kind of initiatives to share best practices and to help translate this across the globe. And I think, one other thing is that you still see in the maturity of circular economy at this moment is that it depends so much on inspirational leaders. And I think that's why it's fantastic to see this initiative in Japan with very ambitious company leaders like Ms. Noda and a very ambitious government as well.
Thank you, Harald.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. Professor Balkenende, we switch to the other side of the table. How do you look at this initiative?
I think it's great. If you talk about new developments, the new economy, sustainability, the SDGs, in fact, it's about to inspire people to innovate and to implement these, I think, 3 keywords. And when we talk about this initiative, I'm very happy with it because this is an example of SDG number 17, partnerships.
Right.
We all know that if you want to reach the goals, you need each other. So it requires creativity and concrete action. And I would like to underline what Harald just said about the organization PACE, Platform for Accelerating the Circular Economy. I think it would be great if there could be a connection between PACE and also the initiative in Japan. But this is a great initiative and it's necessary.
Thank you so much. We go over to Mr. Aoki. You are a member of this platform. Why do you support the Circular Economy Salon?
I think it's quite obvious why we need this initiative, but I could probably summarize by 3 words. One is we can do better. So really we can learn and implement best practice. Second, you see we can do much faster, so to reach a certain critical mass, involving more skills, more stronger skills and stronger wheels. And then thirdly, we can do bigger, so that we can reach enough, so that we can be majority to really change standards. So in today's complex environment, I would urge also this kind of initiative like coalition is really important. So for other social issues, we also recommend such a cross-industry, cross-sector, cross-nations collaboration to really, the doctor said, the SDGs, all the SDGs involve such the collaborations across the world. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Now, we now know why initiatives like the Circular Economy Salon are so important. We now try to explore what is needed to advance circular economy further. And we will try to have an angle from various stakeholders. Now, to warm up the next debate, I will throw out the anchor a bit. And during the World Circular Economy Forum in the Netherlands a couple of months ago, the debate around accelerating circular economy focused on 5 areas. 1, regulation and incentives. 2, collaboration. 3, inclusivity. 4, knowledge and innovation. And 5, leadership. Now, the last 2 weeks, we had 2 sessions in Japan with Dutch and Japanese companies. And some of these items were mentioned. On the role of government is what mentioned. The government can drive innovation by giving direction and legal frameworks. It was said that they can challenge industry to develop high ambitions and come into action. They can bring together individual companies, and they can give trust and support for the front runners. Now, in the field of collaboration, Dutch, Japanese collaboration, to work together with front runners, that was very important. It was also stressed that we need to change the customer's mindset. They are the consumers of today. They will be the leaders of tomorrow. And companies, they still have lots of pragmatic but also very deep research questions. Very simple, like why do I find materials? How do I get them back from the market? How to scale up different business models, and actually how to absorb or earn back additional costs that you might make now. Now, very interesting was also the discussion on leadership. Leadership, like Philips, bold statements, ambition, 25% will be circular. It was said, use the momentum, COVID-19. It's a unique momentum where we're standing. And then also we have to think about the perspective. Business, dream big. We have to scale it up. And very interesting from cultural perspective, experiment, dare to fail. You either win or you learn. Now it's time to test our business panels with questions around what's needed to advance circular economy in Japan. I will have a short round with, again, 2-minute answers by individual questions. Professor Balkenende, I will start with you. The Dutch Sustainable Growth Coalition just published a new publication with a nice title, Transition Time, a Circular Economy for Plastics. Can you share with us the recommendations of that paper?
Yeah, indeed, we published the paper publication Transition Time with 3 key messages. First is realize breakthrough innovations and technologies. When you talk about plastics, how do you collect plastic? How can you reuse materials? So you need these breakthrough technologies and innovations. Second recommendation is you cannot act alone. You must increase partnerships. The cooperation must be brought to a higher level. And that means cooperation within the value chain, but also public-private partnerships. That's the second recommendation. And the third one is, and that is also very important, take into account the necessity to have effective and stimulating policies. Let me give an example. Please. If you talk about the price of plastics, what about the gap now between new plastic and recycled plastics? You have to bring it down. And in fact, we have to realize it because we have to work on reducing the carbon footprint. And at the same moment, it's a matter of finding new business models. So you can see that the world of environmental issues, sustainability and economic well-being can go together, go hand in hand. And that's in fact the message of our report. We've have handed over to Frans Timmermans, the Vice President of the European Commission. We spoke about the Dutch government, and you really can see that the awareness is increasing. I'm happy with that. We need action. And therefore I would like to underline that it's so good that we have a good connection between Japan, the Netherlands and Europe in these fields, because we are living in one world. And if you talk about environmental issues, and we have the SDGs, we have, let's say, common goals, we have a common language, and also we need common actions.
Thank you. I like the idea circular economy as a business model to solve the societal challenges. Over to you, Mr. Tepper. Can you reflect on these recommendations and give the Philips perspective, especially with the Japanese context in it?
Yeah, sure. And I was reflecting on your question, what needs to happen in Japan? And there's so much that still needs to happen also across the globe and also, of course, then in Japan. So let me take out two things that I see that are important also in this context of leadership. One is a mindset shift. I think we need inspiring leaders to change the mindset. So I think many of the business models that Mr. Balkenende was catching are already there, but it's not always easy to bring them to market, right? So one concept I want to coin here is new is the same as new. And let me explain that a bit, right? So what I understand in the Japanese economy and the Japanese culture, and it's true in some other countries, of course, as well, is there's still this feeling of if you buy something new is better. And that's not true, right? So the circular economy is about keeping value and your equipment as long as possible in life and in use. And that means refurbishing, bringing it back to a second life. And when we put refurbished equipment on the market, it's as new, it's the same, it comes with the same guarantee. And that needs to trickle down in the mindset. And we need ourselves also to help there, right? So we, as leaders, we need to bring that message to our customers, consumers, etc. But it also needs to trickle down in the behavior of the government. So you need to see that back in regulations. It needs to become easier to ship refurbished parts and systems across borders. And also, for instance, what the government can do is work a lot on tender regulations and circular procurements to make sure that, as new equipment gets the same position as new.
Thank you, Harald. I continue with Mr. Aoki. Mr. Aoki, your company is about consumer products. Now, how can your company be the editor of choice for consumers in terms of attractiveness, convenience of price, and make circular choices by consumers actually the new normal?
Yes, probably you can show the slide. So we consumer packaged goods companies have sort of own specific issues to challenge. So if analysis to quantify environmental impact by life cycle assessment indicates, you can see the right-hand side, sourcing materials and the utilization and the consumption of products and services, the biggest two areas. So it makes sense because we normally source the every different things, materials, ingredients from everywhere in the world. So there's quite a big reach at the different environmental issues. And then consumer side, of course, this variety of choices, time and energy spent for utilization, consumption by consumers. So that's the biggest part. So therefore, we need to inspire the consumers for better ways to reutilize, consume our products and services. I think the discussion now, you're talking about price, right? So that price is something determined not by cost, not by the company's just will, but more consumers' perception of values. So how we could really express the value to consumers, how they evaluate their contribution to circular economy, society, environment. That's really important. So here I put some slides. So we need to inspire consumers for better ways. So I already mentioned this. And the key points are how we could help consumers to use many times before disposal and to use again through recycling system after disposal. And thirdly, to make compostable when finally disposed. So now this red cycle is very important for consumer company. And then we like to establish sort of a new normal consisting of the three elements. One is product innovation. It's more like a circular design. And the second, consumer behavior. It's circular behavior. So it's more the people really just mention this, the recycled material is the same price, or maybe, the very good price. And then finally, the third point, recycling, system, so circular system. So this is something, we like to, aiming at.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aoki. I turn for the final question to Ms. Noda, and I will put a challenging question for you, because in a circular economy, there is no waste. All waste is turned into value, we close the loop, and that means your strategy has to go from volume to value. But isn't that a threatening vision, a future without waste for a waste management company? How do you manage to extract value in such a circular economy transition? What's needed to make that successful?
Well, I view it on the contrary. As I mentioned earlier, we are not viewing ourselves as a waste company or water company or energy management company at all. We, our corporate mission is resourcing the world since 2014. So we view ourselves as creating resources, secondary resources. And we call our employees as resources. So we, believe that all the used materials are not to be just disposed of, but we should take value out of the waste. All the waste, as mentioned by Mr. Tepper earlier, the waste has to be given the second life. So Veolia is fully committed to circular economy. We try to extract the value out of the waste. And we help our partners, clients, to transform their business model from linear to circular, not to making the waste. So, our engineers working with the partners from the design phase to provide our perspective as a recycler, how to, take values out of the waste into their, designing and manufacturing perspective. So that's what we do, and we are fully committed on circular economy.
Thank you, Ms. Noda. For time's sake, I will ask one Dutch speaker and one Japanese speaker for a final question. What can the Netherlands and Japan learn from each other? I turn to Professor Balkenende. A 30-second answer, please.
I remember the time when I was in Japan in 2009. I had the honor to meet the Emperor and Prime Minister and a lot of companies. And I was impressed by the innovation in Japan. And then I asked the CEOs of those companies, who are your competitors? And they were thinking that, in fact, we don't have, because they were front runners. The Philips heard the same story. And I like that mentality of being innovative. And I think it's great to have innovative companies, but then in relation with the global agenda, the SDGs, and the circular economy. And we really can work together. PACE, Holland Circular Hotspot, the Dutch Embassy, the Dutch National Growth Coalition. We are living in one world and we have common strategies, and they are necessary. So I'm looking forward to the further cooperation. It's great what Japan is doing, and let's work together.
Wonderful. I turn to Mr. Aoki for a final word on what can Japan and the Netherlands mean to each other? How can we learn from each other?
Everybody knows we are very special. We have very special relationship. While we closed the country in the 17th, 19th century, we are the only country where we can really bring in Western culture, including all the science and technology. Now I was, in both countries, people know the limitable natural resources and the power of the nature demonstrated full of respect, appreciation, and humbleness in their ways of living. So I think we can do a lot, not just only by this industrial collaboration, but also how we could really inspire, lead, give a sort of strong sense of pride and satisfaction to consumers, so the people. That's something I really like to learn from the progressive Dutch company like Felix, like DSM. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all speakers. It was wonderful input that will feed into the next round of this session. Thank you for your wisdom and for your commitment to bring circular economy further in Japan and beyond. We now have a short video intermezzo titled Conditions for Change, shot during the World Circular Economy Forum earlier this year. Thank you. Be back.
Experts from all over the world have been sharing their vision on how to scale up the transition to circular economy. Entrepreneurs show courage, are responsible for investing and scaling up, but they cannot do it alone. One of the main conditions for change is regulations and incentives.
What I see is our biggest partner is government. As soon as regulation is there, you see dynamics.
Government needs to either look at incentives by lowering taxes or input duties to improve and increase recycled content.
Collaboration is essential.
The circular economy means creating new relationships.
I think the biggest piece that brought everything together was finding a partner in a retailer that would actually push this out on a bigger scale.
Innovation and innovative perspectives are essential for system change as well. But how do we get there?
Is the need to form a new value chain and the need to collaborate differently across that value chain.
Create flexibility for new technologies.
Smart experimenting and move ahead, even if you need to do a step back later on.
Every stakeholder has its role to play, but it takes leadership to get there.
Because the consumer votes for the future they want with what they buy.
But retailers need to act as the editor of the choices, edit out bad ones, and make more circular choices easy, convenient, and affordable to access.
To convince the consumers to stop buying rubbish.
Inclusiveness should not be overlooked.
We must think of including this informal market and the most marginalized people in emerging markets. Doing it fair, doing it inclusive, and doing it local.
Skills are also very, very important, trying to raise awareness on circular economy in the academia world.
Let's make climate impact by going circular, and let's use this magic momentum that is present today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Now, to scale up systematic change, we need public-private partnerships. They are critical for success. Now, we've heard the perspective of businesses. And now we will explore how Knowledge Institute and government can work together closely with business and to accelerate circular economy. As you can see, we'll have again a fantastic lineup of speakers. We have with us virtually Professor Naoko Ishii, Director at the Center for Global Commons at the University of Tokyo. We have with me in the studio Professor Jacqueline Cramer, Circular Economy Coordination at the Amsterdam Economic Board and Chair of the Supervisory Board of Holland Circular Hotspot. We also have with us virtually live from Amsterdam, Ms. Christa Kruff. She's Leadership Lead of the Platform for Accelerating the Circular Economy. Good afternoon, good morning to all. Let me make a quick round along our distinguished speakers and ask them a question for a max 3 minutes answer. And I will start with Professor Naoko Ishii. Professor Ishii, you are not only the Director of the Center of Global Commons at the University of Tokyo, but you have a very distinguished international career behind you. You have been working on sustainable issues everywhere from every angle. Why is it so important for countries like Japan and the Netherlands to work together at the international level on circular economy? And what's your expert opinion how this should develop? The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here, particularly to think about why the Japan, the Netherlands collaboration, why it's so important. I think I have 3 reasons to answer to your question. Number one, I think the Netherlands and Japan very much share the philosophy or the deep thinking about why the circular economy is so important. I think that we all know that we are at a very special at the critical juncture of our history, human history against that Earth system. We were in the Anthropocene, and we need to find a way that how we can achieve the sustainable development within the planetary boundaries. And in order to achieve that ultimate goal, we need to find a way to transform the economic system, and we need to change the energy system, that we need to change the food system, we need to change the city system. But one of the most important way of changing, transforming the economic system is to move on to the circular economy. And I think that Netherlands is really spearheading this idea that the Netherlands government is always pushing us to think about that, and to solve the climate issue, that one of the best way is to pursue that circular economy. That's one. The second is that we now really need a deep collaboration to learn more about knowledge partnership. I would say that somebody already in the previous session said that Japan has finally actually come up with a very innovative circular economy law or plastic law, but then we get a lot of knowledge from Netherlands because they are quite ahead of in terms of chasing the many passing a lot of important policy measures like EPR and others. So the knowledge sharing is definitely the one. The third reason is, as also mentioned by the Stientje, that circular economy is a little small thing, that we really need to come together to explore how best, how faster, how bigger that we need to achieve the goal. So the collaboration among that public, the government and the private and the academic area, that the collaboration along the value chain, the collaboration along that the sector, within the sectors, this kind of collaboration is so important, and to also inspire the consumers. For those three reasons, I do really value this collaboration between Netherlands and Japan. Back to
Professor
you.
Ishii. We go over to the studio to Jacqueline Kramer. For the Japanese viewers, Jacqueline Kramer is the Dutch Grand Dame of Circular Economy, professor at the university. She is a former Dutch minister, and of course she is also the chair of the Supervisory Board of Holland Circular Hotspot. Jacqueline, you wrote recently a book about the implementation of circular economy in the Netherlands. You stressed the work of network governments and you mentioned 10 guiding principles. Can you give us a teaser of your book?
Yes, of course. Well, to implement circular economy, networks of companies, government and others need to join forces in product chains and at local level. And the governance of such networks, well, that's crucial to realize successful results. And in my book, I summarized network governance in 10 guiding principles.
That sounds easy.
Yes, but it sounds also easy what I say in a minute, but it's hard to implement, all of them.
Tell us.
There are 4 guiding principles that relate to sparking the transition. It starts with a coalition of the willing, of people that have a shared sense of urgency. And secondly, it is important to realize that the transition to a circular economy actually consists of various phases. You prepare, you build, you scale, and you mainstream.
Yeah.
Yes, and that is a cyclic process. You have to repeat it a couple of times before you really become circular. The third point is the tasks to be performed are roughly the same. Of course, they're different depending on the specific circular initiative. And fourth point of this first set is that you have to see the implementation of circular initiatives as a journey with a clear destination, but not with a predetermined path. It is not a project.
If it was that easy, yeah.
No, and it's a process. Well, the next 3 guiding principles relate to understanding the context. It's very important. You need to assess which are the most interesting and promising innovations. Next, you need also to know, okay, when you implement circular initiatives, what are the key drivers and the preconditions? And finally, you also have to understand what are your main allies, partners to involve. And the last 3 guiding principles, they relate to the successful implementation. And then 3 aspects are important. In the first place, to development of new business models, the orchestration of the process by independent intermediaries. I call them transition brokers. And finally, it is important to agree upon roles and responsibilities of the main actors involved. So then you can rely upon each other.
Right.
So that's in a nutshell,
thank you. That
the
will
book.
definitely help. The book is available for download. Circular economy is not about copyright, it's about the right to copy. So feel free to do so. Thank you, Jacqueline. We go over to Christa Kroeft from online with us. Christa, you are responsible for PACE, the platforms accelerating circular economy, for its leadership, engagement and partnership development. Now you're working at the international level, and my question to you would be the following. System change is the magic word in the circular economy transition, but how can we make public-private partnership actionable? How we can make it work in practice?
Thank you, Freek, and thanks for having me. And so PACE has already been mentioned a couple of times, that we're a global community of public and private and civil society leaders that are championing the circular economy. And they really look at this as an opportunity to drive innovation, the market, but also environmental goals and human development. So a total package, so to speak. To your question, how to make public-private partnerships actionable, I really see two ingredients to make this happen. So first of all, from PACE's experience, you need to shape a common agenda between the public-private sectors. And this is exactly what PACE has done. Earlier this year, we launched the Circular Economy Action Agenda. And this agenda is basically 5 reports, you can see it in the slide right now, on food, electronics, textiles, plastics, and capital equipment. And basically what the report does is it discusses the value chains from the current situation, where are we now, towards where do we want to go in the future. So there are certain goals that have been developed that we can achieve through collaborative effort. So based on an impact and barrier assessment, using 5 impact criteria, amongst which was climate change and decent work, we put together 10 calls to action for each value chain. So you can take down the slide right now, just to also let you know that this report was put together, or this agenda was put together by about 200 circular economy experts, and they came from 100 different governments, corporations, and civil society organizations. So it was really a joint effort. So in short, having a common agenda and actionable steps in place is the first ingredient. Second ingredient, and this is building on Jacqueline's point, is to have a brokering organization in place that knows how to drive the ambition loop. So a brokering organization is really an independent, neutral agency in a public-private platform that has no stake in the game, except that it wants the partnership to work. And for PACE, this means that we implement the action agenda. Why is this important? Because public and private sectors come in with their own drivers and interests, and sometimes these interests do clash. And that is totally okay, but we do need to have some kind of a facilitator to ensure that we all work towards our common goal, our common vision. We also need to ensure that the diversity of public-private partnerships actually allows for the performance that goes beyond the sum of the parts of the players. So in order to make public-private partnerships perform, you need to have that broker in place, but also a broker that knows how to drive ambition loops. And this is what PACE does in the Circular Economy Action Agenda. An ambition loop is a positive feedback loop. So for example, by governments taking bold action in terms of their policies, combined with private sector leadership, which, for example, takes bold action in terms of extended producer responsibility, if we combine that together, it actually elevates the action to the next level of ambition. So it's actually a positive feedback loop whereby you continuously drive the ambition to a higher and higher level. And so PACE has been doing this through the action agenda as a broker. And I feel that these are the 2 key ingredients you need to have in place to make public-private actions and public-private partnerships real on the ground.
Christa, very sensible action plans, very recognizable as well. Please allow me to go on with some deepening questions which are related to accelerating circular economy and the next steps to take. And we're a little bit behind time, so I'll ask you for a 1-minute answer max. And Professor Ishii, I'll start with you. What, according to you, should we be setting in motion in Japan?
Thank you. Yeah, as just explained by Christa, you know that the PACE set out put this 5 action plan for the 5 extremely important areas. So that luckily in Japan that we also launched or enacted this plastic law or circular economy law. So what I'm really interested in that and how we can merge or learn together and to actually to accelerate the action by bringing those Japanese law and the CE salon, circular economy salon CEOs, and to see how we can utilize those PACE action plan of 5 priority sectors. And we can see that and how we could actually mobilize, inspire the consumers to drive up our ambition. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ishii. Over to you, Professor Kramer. Well, I know that you interviewed 16 circular economy hubs in the world, coming from 6 continents actually, and you discussed your network governance lessons with them. What are the major findings and what could that possibly mean for Japan?
Well, what was really nice to hear was that everybody recognized the need of network governance, and also they recognized the 10 guiding principles I just explained. And how to spark and implement circular economy, of course, depends on the socio-political and cultural context.
Sure.
But remarkably was also, and that perhaps relates to Japan as well, what we do in Europe in terms of EU policies. Well, that is a broader issue than just in the EU member states, because what I noticed is all those countries who have an export relation with Europe, they are interested to know what is going on in EU policies according to the principles of circular economy. So it means that the influence stretches much further than just Europe.
Thank you so much for that. Last but not least, Krista, I allow you to dream out loud. What would be the next step, or what should be the next step for PACE, or maybe even the Circular Economy Salon in Japan?
Well, the next step for PACE is to really support this friendship which already exists between the Netherlands and Japan, and to support them to collaboratively embrace the circular economy action agenda, and to mobilize additional governments, industries, multilaterals, UN organizations to actually implement and to put the leadership at the front. And I think Stientje is a huge example of this. She's already fully embraced the action agenda. And I must say Stientje and Naoko Ishii are both part of the PACE board. So we know that we are very strongly anchored both in Japan and in the Netherlands. So it's really a matter of, it's a very actionable and doable dream given the relationships are already there.
Thank you, Krista. As time is running off, I have one question for Professor Ishii only, and that is, if, Professor Ishii, if you were to give advice to businesses and government, just one advice, what would that be? So in less than a minute, what would be your advice for business and your advice for government? One action.
To dream how we can live in the Anthropocene to achieve the sustainable development, to get out of your internal silo and get out of your comfort zone and see who we can work together for better future for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Ishii. Well, it's so nice to be surrounded by professionals. In this session, I have learned how knowledge institutes and government can work together with business to create an enabling environment. I learned from Professor Kramer that there are 10 guiding principles, and Krista brought it back to the actionable level and showed what could be practical next steps. Now I'm making a very bold move as a moderator, because in the first round of speakers, we had Ms. Noda. She introduced us to the Japanese initiative of the Circular Economy Salon. And my question to her would be, having listened to all these experts, all this information, how do you see the future of the Circular Economy Salon evolving? Can we have a 1-minute answer for you, Ms. Noda?
Well, thank you so much for the advice and the insights. It's quite useful. I guess the future for CE Salon is really to strengthen and expand the collaboration, of course, within the business sectors. The leadership is so important. So all the leaders in the business try to work together to understand the latest trend of CE in the world, especially Europe. In the Netherlands is really a good benchmark for Japan. So we try to continue to learn a lot from you guys in the Netherlands. And also we try to have some exchanges with the government. We try to have exchanges, how the policy should be to really foster the circular economy trend in Japan. And also we'd like to meet with the consumers and young people who can shape the future of the circular economy. So that's really the plan of what we want to do. And I think the collaboration, as mentioned by many people, collaboration is the key for the circular economy. So we try to continue our collaborative efforts.
So the Circular Economy Salon is not a one-off initiative, it's something that will stay and will evolve and grow and expand. That would be great. As from my side, I hope that together with the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, we also as Holland Circular Hotspot can be of assistance in helping the Circular Economy Saloon seize the opportunities in Japan and continue the Dutch-Japanese collaboration. From my side, I want to thank all the speakers here in the studio and also online for their truly excellent contributions. I want to thank the Embassy for their wonderful support and also the Netherlands Enterprise Agency and the Team NL Tokyo Expo for making this possible. Finally, many thanks for the dedicated people behind the scenes from Holland Circular Hotspot, from So Now. You've been wonderful. Thank you. This journey is to be continued.